All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning or evening, depending on where you might be coming in from. My name is Matt Cornwall. I'm the Associate Director of Student Services within the Saunders College of Business. I'm just going to set some brief kind of ground rules per se of how this will unfold, and then I'll turn it over to Bill Dresnick and Mike Bindle, and we'll get started here with the session. For those of you who have questions at any point throughout the session, please feel free to throw those right in the chat. Mike has a great kind of 25-minute presentation prepared, but we'll certainly save time for Q&A at the end as well. So feel free to throw any questions in that you do have. If you do need any of the closed captioning services, you can certainly select that within the bottom of the Zoom link as well, or your Zoom window as well. And then, yeah, so we'll jump in from there and get started with the session. Bill, I'll turn it over to you for brief introductions, and then Mike, we can jump in with the session.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Excuse me, and I am going to try to keep my comments very brief. But I'm Bill Dresnick. I'm the director of the MBA program at Rochester Institute of Technology, Saunders College of Business. And one of the things I've been trying to do as MBA director is help students try to figure out opportunities and identify career pathways or different things they may be interested in getting involved with. That are interesting, that may be lucrative, but certainly that can open doors for them and create opportunities for them. And so one of the things that I've been doing as MBA director is trying to connect with people in different industries, and consulting is something that a lot of students have talked to me about wanting to know more about and find pathways. Coincidentally, Mayank Bindle, our guest here today, our alumnus expert, had reached out to me last summer, and Mayank is a consultant, and I'm not going to say more. I'll let him introduce himself and go through it. But had reached out and said he'd really like to get more involved with the college after he graduated some years ago, and he had not been very involved. And I said, it's great that you want to get involved. Let's figure out a way, and here we are. So Mayank is going to go through his career path and help you guys understand ways that you may want to shape your own careers. So Mayank, I'll turn it over to you. Mayank Bindle, our guest alumnus, MBA alumni. Mayank?
Thank you, Bill and Matt, and thank you for organizing this great workshop. I'm trying to get my PowerPoint deck here up and running. Okay. Do you guys see the deck? No, let me see. Something is going wrong. Okay. Okay, do you see it now?
Yeah, we got it now.
Okay. Before I jump into my background, I wanted to quickly understand how many of the participants here are from business, accounting, non-technical background versus how many of us are from technical background, given that RIT has such a big population of students who come from tech, either undergrads or any other qualifications to the business school. The accounting or business majors, do you want to raise your hand on the camera or here in the Zoom app for me to quickly get an idea? Okay, I'm seeing the messages. Okay. Not okay. So few of us. Okay, looks like a lot of us are non-tech background. Okay, that helps. Any of you are on the CPA track, trying to be auditors, trying to get into these big four consulting firms as an auditor, trying to be like, there's a completely different track in terms of getting into consulting firms when you are a CPA. Any CPAs around here? And I know, Bill, you started as an auditor, right?
Yes, that was my ticket into various pathways. I started with Deloitte in audit, New York City office. Yeah.
We call it assurance services. So full disclosure, this talk I've prepared is mostly from the perspective of advisory. I came from a tech background. I did my MBA here at Saunders College of Business. Really feel great about being here today virtually. After a long time, after more than 10 years. I'm not gonna say how old I am, but I have more than 15 years of working experience now. I have worked in different industries, started as a developer back in India. Then after my MBA, I did not start in consulting directly. I went into the industry. I worked in healthcare insurance companies, and then I moved on to consulting. And I have worked in consulting for about 8 years now. So that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years. So I have a little bit of an idea in terms of how the advisory business works in consulting, very specifically on tech and financial services side. But I should be able to answer a few questions in the other areas of consulting as well. And I would encourage anyone who has any questions along the way. You don't have to wait till the end. And I have shared this deck with Matt earlier. I don't think I made much of changes. Happy to share again, Matt, with you. And then in case anybody wants, you can share the deck with anyone who's attending or not. Happy to do that as well. So before I start, any specific questions about consulting? And maybe I have the answers along the way during what I've prepared, but any quick burning questions before I get started? Okay, so there's something wrong, and I've changed my computer just for this today. So if it's okay, I'm not gonna put it in the slideshow mode just because it's not letting me see everyone on the Zoom here. It opens another window on my second screen for the speaker note. So I'm just gonna keep it here because it's pretty big anyways. Why consulting is the biggest question. When I was an MBA student, I was very confused about should I be going into consulting. Not that I had a lot of options. All of my 2 years doing an MBA at Saunders, I think right from the day one, I was trying to figure out where am I going to land a job? Would it be an industry? And back in the day when I graduated in 2012, big tech was really a big thing. A lot of big tech companies were hiring pretty much en masse from RIT, from all fields, but then even from MBAs and business school. So that was a big question at that time, and I did not see a lot of consulting companies coming to the career fair to hire RIT MBA especially. I saw that there was some interest for the accounting MBA on the assurance side from a couple of big four firms, but I did not see a lot of interest from big four at that time, especially with the business students, and business students would mostly end up with either big tech or any other industry companies doing most of the tech kind of work. And that's how I started. I started as a business analyst with a healthcare insurance company called Emblem Health in New York City. And then I moved on into product management area after that. And then finally I ended up in consulting after about 5 years. So one of the myths I definitely want to address right at the beginning of this session is that you don't have to start in consulting. You don't have to start as an analyst to become a partner. There's a lot of lateral hiring within the consulting industry. There are a lot of firms. We usually focus on big four, big five. As I mentioned here on this slide, there are close to 1 million firms within US which are providing consulting services. So definitely a lot to look into. And then the other thing about consulting which was a notion for me at least, was that you need to be an expert in one of the fields to get into consulting so that you can provide those services to the clients, because clients need to look at you as an expert. Again, not true. Consulting is not about anybody being an expert. Consulting is more about problem solving, trying to understand the issue a client is facing, and then solving the problem in a structural way, which most of the companies, when they have their own business as usual workforce, is not able to look at from perspectives which a consultant can. I'm pretty sure a lot of us might have seen those videos of different tech leaders, especially Steve Jobs, talking about how consultants are bozos. They don't have skin in the game. How he did not like it. To hire, he did not hire any consultants, and he did not trust them. That is not completely misplaced, I would say. But what I've seen with different industries, big tech, financial services, healthcare, most of these industries, they like to control their main business function by themselves, and then they try to bring in the consultants for solving the problems they're not good at. So for example, if I'm Google, I'm not gonna hire a McKinsey to design a search engine for myself. I would rather have them manage my HR, my payroll, uh, my revenue. So depending upon what these companies are doing in the industry, they hire consulting services for different purposes, especially when they are in the growth phase. That's the only almost option most of the companies have, is to hire a consulting company and then expand, right? Rather than hiring a really large big workforce and then expanding that way. So just wanted to quash a few of these myths I had in my mind, at least as a student back in the day, which did not make me feel confident about applying to these consulting firms and then preparing well in advance for getting into this field. I'll take a pause. Any questions? Okay. So the other part I was looking at is that what are the biggest advantages of being a consultant? I listed down 10 reasons here. They're not the only reasons you would actually want to work in the consulting industry, but some of the reasons are pretty well known. We all know that there is, faster growth path. There is, you get a launch pad and then you can get into the actual industries where you worked in consulting and then build a probably fast-paced career for yourself. But what we usually don't look at initially when we're trying to figure out why consulting is that what kind of exposure you get. As a consultant, even at the analyst level, when you start, you get a lot of access, which you do not get usually in the industry, if you're in a business as usual kind of a team, to the leadership problems, leadership decision making. And I think that executive decision making exposure prepares you well for your career in future, because you know what kind of problems at the board level these executives are trying to solve, and then what kind of strategic roadmap they're looking at to take the company forward. These kind of exposures, I think, are the biggest advantages to be in consulting. They prepare you well for future. They design your thought process and they make you more structured in your approach to solve problems. And those are the kind of skills you would be looking at building, and those come with practice. We can read as many books, as many papers as we want. But if you're not practicing, we are most likely not going to know how to attack a problem when we see one. So it's like almost going to a gym. The work is very intense. You have late nights, you have weekend calls. I'm not trying to scare anyone here, but all of that hard work, especially in the initial phases of your career, they actually prepare you well. And then they place you in a very good position as you advance in your career. And we can look at how you progress as a consultant. Initially, when you get hired, and this could be very different from firm to firm, but usually this is the kind of career path as a consultant you would see in different firms. You join as an analyst. Sometimes they get you in as a senior analyst, consultant, and the kind of work at this bottom of the pyramid layer does is basically they do all the work we actually see and present to the clients, right? This is the group which will do the most hard work, do the most number of hours. They will prepare all the decks, the slides, numerous spreadsheets, and then they are actually the part of folks in the firm who actually problem solve and provide the results rather than the senior people in a consulting firm. So you come in at that bottom, you learn all the ropes, and then you go to a manager or a senior manager where you own all of that delivery. So there are two parts in consulting, usually, which people focus on. One is the delivery, and the other one is business development. As you grow in your career, you're progressing from delivery to the business development. And initially, you start with owning the deliverables, then you own the entire engagement as a manager or senior manager, where you are the face of an engagement to the client. And it depends upon you as a senior manager or manager, the quality of work you provide, if the client is going to engage you again or not. And then as a director principal, you then start spreading a little bit more. You are responsible for multiple engagements rather than just focusing on one client. You're trying to do a little bit of more business development at that point. You're trying to build something called book of business, which is which is a big, almost like an achievement in consulting, where everyone is proud of creating their own book of business at some point, and then they grow into a partner or managing director, depending upon what kind of a firm structure it is. Not all firms are partner structure anymore. Some of them are private firms, some of them are even public as well. So depending upon the kind of firm, you either go on to become a managing director or partner. Good thing about the career progression in consulting is that usually is a little bit faster than the industry. And when it comes to the pay levels, it's usually at the same level if you're comparing an analyst, consultant, or a manager, senior manager in the industry. It'll be almost, and this is just my quick research on different websites like levels.fyi or others. It'll be around 20 to 25% more than what you usually see in the industry. So for example, if you're comparing a senior manager in a Chase or a Bank of America against a senior manager at Deloitte or EY, there will be around 20 to 25% difference usually on an average in terms of compensation. So that's something to look at. Definitely, you're burning more hours, you're doing more intense work, you have more visibility, so you do get compensated for that as well. So this is a very typical structure, not always followed in all the consulting companies, but this is how most people progress. I'm not a very typical case, as I mentioned earlier, that I had 10 years of working experience before I joined as a manager in KPMG. So I did not really follow this path. But usually I've seen people who join as an analyst, they grow up to a director principal around within like 10 to 12 years. And then beyond that is mostly about the kind of book of business you build if you are going to progress to a managing director or partner level. So it's a pretty short career graph to the top as compared to a lot of places in the industry. Again, it's I'm trying to compare almost like typical scenarios. I'm pretty sure there are like faster paths in the industry, and there are people who are stuck at one level within the consulting as well. So um, always there are outliers, but if you look at the typical path, it'll be a little bit faster than the industry just because you're putting in so many more hours. I think that gets you there.
Maya, can I, excuse me, can I jump in and ask a question?
Sure.
I hope that's okay with Matt also. So I'm jumping in because, you know, as mentioned earlier, I started my career in public accounting and assurance and audit with Deloitte. And right at the beginning, they started saying, well, what you want to do is you want to, you know, build a client base and a book of business and bring people in. And that was terrifying to me. You know, I had gotten into accounting in part because I didn't realize how much of it was really client relationships. And, you know, it's not as direct as sales, but it certainly is that kind of thing. And that was frightening to me. Can you speak a little bit for the students? Because I've had a lot of students ask me that about accounting. That, you know, what's it like to try to make those kinds of clients and bring that in? Because if that's the starting point in your career and you're expected over time to do that, you know, how do you approach that? And if you want to talk about that later at the end, you know, that's fine too. I just think it's something a lot of students are concerned about.
That's a great question, and thank you for that. And I can definitely tell you, you were not alone. When I got into consulting, that was a big terrifying thing for me as well, because I almost got into consulting mid-career just because I had known someone. I was working for a director in my previous firm and previous company, and then he happened to go back to consulting where he came from. So my mindset mostly was about delivery. I was very proud of the kind of product delivery I was providing to my company, and then I was very confident about doing the same thing for the clients. I did not think about business development. I did not think about book of business. But as soon as I entered the consulting firm, I was being told, hey, you need to make sure you're building the relationships. How many people do you know? There's a system where we track all the opportunities. We'll be tracking how many opportunities you enter in a system every year. Even as a manager, that was definitely scary. But let me tell you that kind of a pressure is always applied. But once I got into delivery, once I had been working with the clients for some time, at least like after 1 to 2 years, that kind of like I eased into that business development book of business part very easily because I started talking to my clients a lot more. And one thing I had seen when I started working with the clients was that because of the way we were placed with the clients to deliver some key turnkey projects, clients would actually trust consultants a lot more than their own employees, just because we had a lot more access to the information. We had access to executive thought leadership, decision making, and we were helping collect the data for executives to make those decisions. That actually wins you a lot of trust. So since then, I don't think anybody has asked me, hey, who's your previous client? Can you bring them on board? I don't think anybody does that. But the most of the expectation is that you will come in, you'll be introduced to a client, you will deliver your work, but along with delivering your work product, you will build some relationships. I think that's the expectation. And consulting usually is more about pull business rather than push. I haven't seen very hard business development sales kind of practices, every consulting company would have a sales or a business development as a team who would, go approach the clients, do some conferences, things like that. But most of the business, even the new logos, and this is a very consulting lingo, when a new client comes in who hasn't been working with you, we call it a logo, right? So even the new logos, they do not come in because someone called them, and they are really good at talking, they're good at sales. Most of the consultants are good at delivery, and that builds a lot of trust with the clients, and you would, once you win that trust, you would see that the clients are more interested to give you work than you are actually able to take. So you'll always see examples like, and I'm trying to share as many anecdotes here as possible. So when I was at KPMG, most of my time I spent at Goldman Sachs. If you enter Goldman Sachs in New York, you'll see more KPMG employees than actual Goldman Sachs employees. The reason for that is that Goldman Sachs is very specialized into investment banking, trading, or whatever they do. But they have so much of the other work they create where they need very high quality products. So, for example, they need their internal systems, they need regulatory reporting, all of that. They need very high quality consultants to come in and then deliver. And they have so much of work that not even a single firm can actually deliver on that. So you'll always see those kind of relationships between consulting firms and large clients. So for example, right now my client is Capital One, and I've been with that client for last 3 years. So all I do is just move from one project to the other within Capital One. And before I even move on to a next project, um, I'm always being asked by different client leaders about solving the next problem. And then we try to build out some kind of a logical path for solving that problem for the client. And that's how we end up winning a lot of business. So I know it is scary, and I kind of took a long path to answer that question. When it comes to business development, when people talk about building a book of business, but it's not about how many people you know, how good you are as a salesperson. It's more about how much trust you can win with your work. And that comes with practice, that comes with actually working with the clients, rather than me going to a conference and then talking to someone about, it's not about an elevator pitch, even though in business world, we talk about a lot about elevator pitches, right? We say, hey, you got 30 seconds and you need to impress someone. That kind of gets you into the door, but it's very hard for a client to sign an SOW with you just on the basis of that. They do want to have some trustworthy, people who have delivered for them in the past. So usually you'll get business either because a client has worked with you in the past, and he moved on to another organization. That's how you end up getting new logos, or within the same client, they have a new business problem they want your company to solve. So that's mostly about getting more business in consulting. It is kind of scary. And then if you ask me today what kind of book of business you have, I basically have none, because I cannot claim any of my clients as my own clients only. It's probably 100 people from my firm who work for the same client right now, and they all will claim the same client as their book of business, right? So I don't think anyone would have a control over one client or any engagement. So definitely it is a little bit scary, and that's why as you grow in your career, you go from director, principal to a partner, managing director. That's when you are able to build so many relationships, so much trust, that you mostly manage the business development and sales part, rather than at more junior levels, they're asking people to deliver on that. So you'll not see a firm having a KPI or a metric for a manager saying how much sales you did this year. So that's not going to happen. That'll usually start from director and above. And you get all of that time to build those relationships to that point.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I'm sorry if I got you off track, but I know
No, absolutely.
you have
This
other
is,
slides and topics, and I'm sure some of the students have some questions. So thanks, though. I do think that's helpful.
And I'm not trying to get through all the materials here. I just provided some key topics here. We can I'm absolutely fine if I miss some of this. I'm more happy to engage and then answer questions rather than really going through my material. So definitely, please feel free to ask any questions in the middle. Please stop me. Another kind of a myth area within consulting. And that could just be me. When I started looking at the consulting firms, I would always think about McKinsey's, Bain, and very high management consulting firms where I would think that, hey, I don't know anything about strategy. I only took one class from Professor Etley, and then I know how to solve a few case studies. How am I going to become a consultant who's building strategies for all these big companies? First myth over there is that you're not supposed to know everything. What you need to know is how to solve problems. What is the structured method of going around and approaching a problem rather than actually knowing the answers? And the other myth is that those big strategy consulting firms are not the only consulting areas you should be looking at. Definitely, there are different kinds of consulting work different firms are performing. Strategy is one part, management is one part, but then there is a lot of tactical consulting work, which most of the even big fours are engaged in. These days, you would see, I wouldn't think, if you take an example of Deloitte or PwC, I don't think if you look at their advisory business, I would be very surprised if they're even getting 5% of their business as a strategy consulting engagement, right? So 95% mostly business comes from tactical implementations, from running the programs, because that's the kind of work. A lot of the clients, they do not have human capital, they do not have people, and they don't want to hire specialists to run different projects. So that's where the consulting companies come in. And when I'm talking about strategy consulting firms to big fours, there are also other kind of consulting firms like very specialized in the area of technology. When I say consulting, it not only means especially just the consulting firms. So if you look at places like AWS hires a lot of consultants. What they basically do is that they go in and implement their cloud and whatever services they're providing for their clients. So if you look at big tech firms, they have a big consulting arm, because when they go in to implement their technology with any of their clients, it's either through a partnership model with a consulting firm, or they have their own internal consulting arm, which provides those services to their clients. So please look at all kinds of consulting opportunities, not only those high management consulting firms or big fours. Again, they're close to 1 million consulting firms within US. And those are pure consulting firms, not even counting all these big tech firms where you have a very big consulting arm usually placed within those companies, so to help their clients. And when this consulting practice, like you'll usually see assurance services, advisory, and within advisory, you'll see strategy, tech, financial services. It doesn't mean when you actually go to a client that that's how you solve the problem. When we create an engagement team, we get people from all different verticals within a firm to solve the problem. So for example, the client problem would be that they are having a lot of issues with their teams. They're not able to finish their projects on time. They're not able to complete their projects within the expected costs, and they want help there. Now, that's a business problem, and that's not very specific to one particular practice within a consulting firm. So it could be a tech problem. It could be a problem where there is a need for a very efficient program manager. There might be a need for some data analysis, some data cleanup. So given the nature of the problem, we put together a team, and that's what consulting companies are good at. They usually look at a problem and they are very good within themselves internally to find people who can solve those problems. And those people can come from different consulting practices. Um, you'll have different capabilities. So I would definitely suggest that looking at different opportunities within the consulting world, you'll see something like SAP analyst, or very specific positions tied to a specific tool or a big platform. I would definitely say try to go for them, even if you're not expert, or if you're not certified in those areas yourself. So for example, if you have done some work in the past in an ERP which is not SAP, and then there is an SAP position open, I think consulting companies are very open to look at other candidates. So that's something to look at. Do not get discouraged by specific needs which are mentioned in a job requirement, usually which are around specific tools, specific platforms, because a lot of times when we're trying to solve the problems for our clients, we are usually agnostic to the tools and platforms they're using, because we don't know what our clients are using, right? So I might go to a bank today. We might have an army of people, very experts in Oracle or SAP, and the client is using something completely different. A lot of companies are using Workday nowadays as their ERP, right? Now, that doesn't mean I can't bring anyone from SAP or Oracle practice to help out with that engagement. Because we need someone who has an understanding of overall ERP systems, how they work, how the data flows. And it depends upon what we're trying to solve for, rather than having the actual experts in a specific tool or a platform. So think of all of these different places within the consulting firms. Some of the job postings, positions would look like very specific and might be discouraging, but often you'll see in their interviewing processes, they wouldn't really focus a lot on that particular skill, but they would usually focus on the problem solving techniques, especially if you're applying for anything lower than a manager. I don't think that should be a problem. Most of the consulting companies are always open for their employees to gain certifications later on in their career after they join. So the only point of this slide I was trying to make here is that please keep your options open. Do not get discouraged by very specific requirements mentioned in the job descriptions. But try to apply as much as you can, and then build some of the core competencies in terms of how to crack the interviews, and build your resume in a way which gets selected through automated tools they're using these days. And let me get to my next slide about that. And this is my last slide, and we can open up for questions after this. It's mostly, so what are the things which can get you in? And that was, I think, the first question Bill was asking. even though I went through what consulting is, why students should consider consulting, it's I don't think, and again, when I was an MBA student, I don't think anyone needed to convince me for getting into a specific career path as long as that career path was rewarding enough. I just wanted to get a job somehow. Um, but at the same time, I don't think I was prepared enough. I was prepared well in advance to be able to apply for some of these positions. And that's where I think I would definitely like to bring focus of this group to understand what is required when it comes down to applying for these positions. And this can help you not only with consulting, but other industries as well. May not be an exact kind of approach when you prepare for those kind of positions, but definitely some things to look at. So I would definitely encourage everyone to focus on the resumes, and you don't have to have a lot of great working experience. You don't need to show a lot of academic strength in your resume, but you need to focus on results rather than just listing down your certifications, listing down your achievements, but it's more about results. If you are part of a club, what did you achieve in that club? Um, were you able to increase the membership? Were you able to um, get more interest, make the club more popular, just for example? So I would make sure that I'm focusing on the results in my resume, which is very helpful in getting picked up by numerous automated tools nowadays. Most of the companies are using to pick up the resumes to call candidates for interviews. And once the interview is scheduled, usually you go through different kinds of interviews, especially within different consulting firms. I would definitely encourage everyone to prepare for the online assessments. So online assessment would be aptitude tests. It could even be a case which you need to solve, or some kind of a data set they would provide for you to solve for. You can get plenty of these examples, resources, even on YouTube. You don't even have to go in and buy some specialized interview training tool. You can find a lot of it even just by typing some different prompts on the chat GPT or things like that. So definitely spend time on, after you're done with your resume, that's the first step. Make sure that you are well versed with solving the online assessments, aptitude tests. Good thing about the online assessments is that usually the firms are very liberal about time frame you need to solve them in. I haven't seen an online assessment where they tell you, hey, you need to solve it in like an hour. You have 100 questions. Usually you get as much time as you need. But it's more about accuracy. It's more about how much detail you are. And then once you pass that hurdle, there would be case interviews. And I'm seeing a lot of companies, especially that applies to MBAs, because MBAs in my mind right now would definitely consider, if not consulting, some kind of product role. If you're applying for any product role in the industry right now, you will be asked to solve at least 2 to 3 interviews, 2 to 3 case studies. I'm not sure how many case studies we're doing these days within the MBA program at Saunders, but I did not solve a lot. As I mentioned earlier, I only had one class, something called tech innovation, something like that with Professor Atley, where we were solving cases. I would definitely get well versed with how to solve cases. It's more about the structure rather than the actual solution you provide when you solve the cases. Watch a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of cases. That'll help you understand what the interviewers are looking at when they are giving you those cases. And the last set of interviews would definitely be your behavioral or fit interviews, where you need to make sure that you are, again, following a structured approach. A very simple way to answer interviews and any questions would be a STAR method, where you would explain a situation, task, and then you provide them the actions you took and the results. Again, the focus is not going to be on the actions or the results. The focus is going to be on the trade-offs you made during selecting a specific action, and then how you got the results and the metric of those results. So there are key things in all of these areas which are widely available. You type it on Google, you type it on ChatGPT, you get a lot of results. But I, as a student back in the day, was not very well prepared on these. I think other than your class and grades, I think these 4 areas could be the most important aspects of where you spend your time during your MBA to prepare you well enough for any opportunity. So we always complain about not getting enough interviews, but I think it's really important for converting the interviews for us, rather than just getting a number of interviews. So I would definitely encourage, and then happy to help if anyone has questions about any of these specific areas. And these are the big areas where you need to prepare well in advance if you are thinking about consulting as a career. Without being really good at solving the cases, without being able to achieve well in your online assessments or aptitude tests, I don't think it's going to be possible with any firm, because that's like, even if you know someone, you have good contacts within these firms, you have to pass through these hoops. So make sure that you're preparing well in advance for all of these areas. And I'll just take, and that's all I have right now. As I mentioned at the beginning, happy to share this deck. Feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn, email, anything. Happy to answer questions, help with some preparations if someone has questions. And I'll take a pause here if anyone has any additional questions. And I know Bill asked a few questions already.
Okay, I am gonna verbalize these questions for those that are gonna watch later, but Brenda does have a question here. What skills or previous experience have been most valuable in your consulting career so far in terms of knowing how to solve problems? And what advice would you give to someone looking to break into real estate consulting or business development within a consulting firm?
I'll try to break this question down, and thank you, Matt, for bringing my attention to the chat. I was not looking at the questions in the chat. As far as my previous experience is concerned, what got me into consulting and helped me initially was that I was part of some really good programs in my past career, where I knew how the large programs worked, and then how you would bring people together. Just to give a lay of the land to everyone here, when we actually go in and try to implement a simple system within a bank or a financial services company, we would usually have more than 50 teams involved in one program. And if you even take 2 points of contact from each team, you would usually have meetings with 100 or more people, which is hard to manage, which is hard to organize in terms of what information you're disseminating, how you're dealing with people when you're asking them for some deliverable. I had some good experience in those areas from my past experience, especially from implementing some technologies, which helped me with immensely with my delivery within the consulting as well. But what got me into consulting was not that experience. It was I spent almost 3 months not thinking about anything, sacrificing my social life just on preparing on how to solve cases and online assessments. So, um, again, that was the most important part. I could have been good at, tech program management or not. That came later, and that helped me with my engagement delivery later on. But the most important part to get into consulting was my preparation on solving the cases and aptitude tests. And then let me see, what is the second part? We're looking to break into real estate consulting. So yeah, so real estate consulting, I don't have a lot of I haven't actually worked with anyone who's been part of real estate consulting. Um, not sure what exactly it would entail, but I would think, like in any other consulting business, it would require you to solve problems for the clients and then be good at building those relationships, right? So depending upon where you're entering within that ladder, uh, at an analyst level, I'm assuming here that you would be asked to do a lot of research, find good opportunities for your clients, solve some problems. And if you're going at a higher level, then of course it's more about relationships, how you present yourself, what kind of knowledge you have, which will be beneficial for your clients. I hope I was able to answer questions, but this question, but not sure. Matt, you want to read out the next question?
Yeah. I think it's timely. So it's what are your thoughts on whether the knowledge of AI business solutions is an added advantage in getting into consulting nowadays?
So when you say AI business solutions, I'm assuming you're not talking about ChatGPT or Copilot or things like that. I'm assuming you're talking about um, the enterprise AI technology, which is being implemented nowadays slowly, very slowly. I haven't really seen a lot of firms or companies implementing AI within their enterprise technology so far. The only place I've seen is with the developers, where most of the companies are now providing either Copilot, even ChatGPT to write their code or write their unit test cases. But I would think that given that AI is progressing very fast now within the enterprise solutions, there will be a bigger need for consultants, even more than earlier, because um, now what it does is that it makes the actual developer or the BAU processes very efficient. And when there are efficiencies within the BAU processes, what you need is to make sure that you are solving the problems correctly and bringing the entire organization together, which is where usually the consulting companies come in, solve large scale problems, help companies expand, help companies grow, and try to build the right target operating model for them. Um, and the companies usually have a very good grasp of their own core business, which is either developing an application, providing a service. That's where they focus on, and they're getting more efficient in that because of these AI tools nowadays.
All right, and then we can wrap with this last question. The consulting industry is very broad. How would you recommend narrowing down the type of consulting roles for someone who does not have a data or accounting background?
Again, that's definitely a big question I had when I was thinking about consulting as a career when I was doing my MBA, was that I did not think that I was a specialist in any of the areas. Uh, I did not have accounting background. I did not I did work as a developer. I did not have a lot of analytics background, which is definitely a sought after skill in consulting with data visualization, BI kind of knowledge, because it doesn't matter where you are, you need to be presenting data in a meaningful way to most of your clients. I did not have any of those skills, but again, it's not about having skills in a very specific area. Those skills might be useful, and you would find maybe 20-25% people in a consulting firm having those skills. And I'm talking about advisory. Usually you'll find a lot of people with good skills in terms of structured thinking and problem solving, rather than having very hard skills in data analytics or any specific accounting area. So, and I'm not saying those are not useful. Definitely, they get you in the door faster, and there is definitely a big need for those skills within the consulting industry, but those are not required. What is required is more structured thinking and problem solving.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate your time and this great presentation and session. It's been great to hear from you and hear about your path and suggestions for our students. Bill, anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
No, not at all. You can stop the share, of course, but no, Mayank, thank you. Again, I think a lot of MBA students, a lot of students in general, are interested in consulting. And one of the students had asked a question about that. If you don't have a technical background, how do you get into it? But your discussion about get your foot in the door somewhere, and bring problem solving skills and open mindedness, and being prepared to take on different opportunities. I think that speaks to the idea of, all right, you got to persist, you got to get that first job, but then you can build a career from there, even though you didn't have a particular pathway related to that. So I think that's really, really helpful. I mean, the whole thing is really helpful, and I appreciate it. I have nothing else. I mean, we could go on and on, but I know we have to stop the discussion. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your sharing it with our students.
Yeah, really appreciate you all for bringing me in here. Happy to help. Definitely, again, I know there are only four students here, but preparation for getting into consulting is the most important part. It's not about what skill you have. You see people from all diverse backgrounds in consulting. So definitely try to look at what the companies are looking at in terms of their interview process, and make sure that you're preparing well in advance for that.
I'll just throw out to the students and anyone else who watches the video, if you have any questions about RIT and Saunders and Mayank and our programs, please let us know. And we really try to do a good job connecting people in different places, different companies, different career paths. So let us know if we can help.
All right. Thank you again, Mike. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us. Have a good day, evening, wherever you're coming in from. And hopefully we'll be in touch again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.